Welcome to the deep dive. Today, you and I are going to unpack Martha Wells's sci-fi novella.
Right.
We've got a really interesting stack of sources here. The book's official descriptions, some, rave reviews from the publishing world, what readers thought, a bit about the author, and even a sneak peek from chapter 1.
Yeah, and our goal is basically to get right to the heart of this novella's initial setup. We want to properly meet its very unique main character
Definitely unique.
and sort of understand why it's resonated so much with critics and readers alike.
Yeah.
Think of it as, well, your shortcut to understanding what makes this story tick.
And unique is absolutely the word for our protagonist. We're talking about a self-aware, hacked security android, a SecUnit, I think they call it.
That's right, SecUnit.
Imagine a bodyguard who's not just following orders, but is actively making its own calls. So much so, it's given itself this, rather telling internal nickname, Murderbot.
Oh, yeah, Murderbot.
Its current job, keeping a team of scientists safe, alive and well on some distant planet.
And the world Wells has created here, it's dominated by corporations. They handle pretty much everything for these off-world ventures.
Right.
The ships, the habitats, the equipment, and, yeah, the security androids like our protagonist.
Okay.
Now, as you can probably guess, when big companies are involved, keeping costs down, well, it often becomes a bigger priority than absolute safety.
Yeah, that makes sense. That kind of sets the stage for trouble, doesn't it?
It definitely sets the stage for potential complications right from the start.
So the excerpt from chapter 1, it just throws us headfirst into Murderbot's perspective. It's incredibly dry, kind of darkly funny. It opens with this amazing line where it reflects on how it could have gone on this, massive killing spree after its programming was hacked.
Right.
But instead, it discovered, entertainment feeds,
Yes,
TV shows, basically.
5,000 hours of them, apparently.
35,000 hours later, and the whole mass murder thing hasn't really panned out. It thinks of itself as a complete failure, as a ruthless killing machine.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Such a subversion of the usual killer robot trope.
Totally.
This incredibly capable machine, potential for immense violence, and it's just far more interested in, escapism through fiction. The current contract, as you said, involves a survey team. There's a Dr. Valescu and a Dr. Baradwaj.
Right.
They're on what seems like a pretty uneventful coastal island, just collecting samples in these big, open craters. Kind of boring work, it sounds like.
Exactly. And Murderbot. It's mostly just trying to look busy, maybe subtly trying to hack into some more entertainment feeds. That seems to be a constant side project.
Always multitasking.
But then, out of nowhere, the bottom of one of these craters just explodes. Talk about a sudden shift in the day's agenda, right?
Yeah, that definitely signals that this seemingly boring planet has some serious hidden dangers.
No kidding.
That explodes. That's really the inciting incident.
Right.
That kicks the plot into gear. And Murderbot's response, even after all that internal monologue about serials and streaming, it's immediate. It's highly efficient.
Okay.
It sends a visual feed straight to Dr. Mensah and heads directly towards the blast site to help.
So the protective programming is still there, underneath the desire to watch soap operas?
Exactly. It highlights that underlying function to protect its clients, even if its personal preference is, elsewhere.
And things escalate incredibly fast. The emergency channels are apparently a mess, conflicting info.
Yeah, the automated hub system is demanding data, status updates.
While Dr. Mensah is urgently trying to get the emergency transport off the ground. And they're 10 kilometers away, so...
So immediate backup isn't really an option. That really underscores the isolation, doesn't it? How alone these teams are.
Definitely.
And it kind of raises questions about relying totally on automated systems when things get unpredictable.
Good point.
Even with its hacked governor module, you start seeing this tension in Murderbot between its ingrained protocols and its own developing sense of what needs to happen right now.
And how does that play out when it gets there?
Well, when Murderbot reaches the crater floor, it doesn't mess around. Pulls out the heavy weaponry, a projectile weapon for serious threats.
Okay.
Apparently, whatever came out of that explosion had the book says a really big mouth.
Huh. Understeered.
Wonderfully understated way of saying it was extremely dangerous.
So what happens then?
Well, in that moment, Murderbot makes a critical decision. It pulls the badly wounded Dr. Varadwaj from the creature's mouth.
Oh, wow.
And then, kind of remarkably, uses itself as bait, as a target, to draw the creature away and eliminate the threat.
So it puts itself in the line of fire.
Yeah, it's a calculated risk, prioritizing the client's survival. This mix of core programming and maybe this emergent protective instinct that's really central to the character.
And Dr. Bharadwaj is in terrible shape, you said.
Really bad shape. And here's a key moment. Murderbot starts getting new commands from its governor module, the part it hacked.
Right.
The module is essentially telling it to do something else, maybe standard procedure, I don't know. But Murderbot just completely ignores those orders.
It just ignores them.
Totally. Focuses only on Dr. Bharadwaj's immediate medical needs. That hacked governor module isn't just some background detail. It's fundamentally changing how Murderbot operates in a crisis.
That speaks volumes about agency, doesn't it? Even for an AI.
Exactly. That's a big theme here. It's designed for a purpose, built with limits, but hacking that module, that's it breaking free, in a way.
Even though it keeps calling itself a tool.
Right. Its actions in these moments suggest something more complex is going on inside.
Okay, so what about the other scientist, Valescu?
Dr. Valescu is understandably in shock, pretty much shut down, non-responsive.
Makes sense.
But Murderbot, despite its own injuries, and it's taken some hits, lost armor, flesh damage, even an abdominal wound from the creature. It manages to get through to him. And in this really surprising move, it retracts its helmet, lets Valescu see its face, its very human-like face.
Whoa, that feels like a big deal for a SecUnit that seems to prefer being anonymous armor.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And incredibly telling. Revealing its face like that, it's a deliberate attempt to connect, right? To get a human response in a crisis.
Using psychology, almost.
It's pragmatic.
Yeah.
Using the most effective tool, even if that tool is showing vulnerability, which Murderbot usually avoids like the plague, really highlights its problem solving, even under extreme stress.
So they managed to get out of the crater.
They do. And Murderbot, always the observer, takes stock of its own damage. Shortly after, the emergency hopper arrives, piloted by Dr. Mensah.
Okay, rescue time.
Now, standard procedure, apparently, is that SecUnits like Murderbot aren't allowed in the main crew cabin with the humans.
Ah, segregation?
Kind of.
Yeah.
But they make an exception here because Dr. Bharadwaj is so critical, needs immediate transport.
Understandable, but probably awkward for Murderbot.
Oh, this sets up a classic Murderbot moment of, intense discomfort.
Yeah.
Being squished in close quarters with humans, especially when it's injured and not fully armored. Definitely not its happy place.
You can feel the social awkwardness radiating off the page, even in the description.
Yeah, its internal commentary often reflects that. It's such a fascinating contrast to how competent it is in a firefight.
So they're in this tense little cabin. What happens next?
Well, just as they're about to lift off, Dr. Rathi, another team member, tries to run back for the abandoned field equipment.
Oh, bad idea.
Terrible idea. Thankfully, everyone, including Murderbot, who later admits and actually yelled, which is rare, shouts him down.
Who?
Just in time, too, because the creature reappears and attacks the hopper as it's taking off.
Seriously. Wow. Close call. Really drives home the danger.
Absolutely. That reappearance makes it clear. The explosion wasn't just a one-off freak accident. The environment itself is hostile. Ongoing threat. Raises the stakes quite a bit.
Okay, so they get away, back to the habitat.
Back to the relative safety of the habitat, which, somewhat alarmingly, has its main security door just standing wide open when they get there.
That's not good. Not secure.
Not ideal, no. They're met inside by Dr. Gurathan, who thankfully has a lift gurney ready. They get Dr. Bharadwaj inside, start stabilizing her.
And what's Murderbot doing while the medics work?
While the medical stuff is happening, Murderbot immediately goes into security mode, secures the perimeter, widens it, sets out seismic monitors.
Back to its primary function.
Efficiently fulfilling its role, yeah. Even if its internal monologue is probably wishing it were anywhere else, preferably with a good show downloaded.
Huh. Probably. And then?
Then comes this surprisingly relatable moment. Murderbot goes to the security ready room, sheds its busted armor, slaps on some wound sealant.
Okay, self-repair time.
But its internal temperature controls are malfunctioning. It's freezing cold.
Oh, right, because of the damage.
Presumably.
Yeah.
So what does this super advanced killing machine do? It wraps itself in a survival blanket and heads to its little cubicle.
No way. Bundled up in a blanket.
That image is just so humanizing somehow in its unexpectedness. Despite all the tech and combat skills, it's still affected by basic physical discomfort.
That's great.
And then, to add insult to injury, the med system pings it with a report saying its performance reliability is dropping.
Oh, come on. After all that.
Not exactly confidence boosting after surviving a giant mouth monster attack.
So, what's the plan? Hunker down.
Plan is an 8-hour security lockdown. Murderbot goes off duty, plans for some self-repair, and crucially, a chance to catch up on downloaded media.
Finally. Some peace and quiet and TV.
But just as it's settling in, thinking about some well-deserved downtime, there's a knock on its cubicle door.
Oh no, who is it?
It's Dr. Mensa.
Ah, the leader.
Yeah. And she's clearly concerned. She saw Murderbot's status report that 20% body mass loss. That's significant even for a SecUnit.
True. Can't just ignore that.
So this interaction, it gives us a more intimate glimpse into their relationship, how it's evolving.
How does Murderbot react? Still awkward?
The awkwardness is almost palpable reading it from Murderbot's perspective. It hates being seen injured without its armor. There's that constant, self-consciousness, being this potentially dangerous thing around the humans it's supposed to protect.
I get that.
Yet, Dr. Mensa expresses genuine appreciation. She praises how Murderbot handled Dr. Valescu's shock, even points out that the med system itself had overlooked his condition.
So she's noticing its initiative, that it went beyond just basic programming.
It suggests that, a level of independent assessment and action that she recognizes and values.
Interesting. Do they talk about the creature?
Yeah, we learned the other humans reviewed the footage from Valescu's field camera, and they were pretty shocked by what they saw, the creature's appearance.
A reminder that alien life isn't always friendly microbes.
Exactly. Highlights the SecUnit's protective role again, doesn't it? Not just physically, but shielding the humans from the raw reality of the dangers. The armor is a buffer, literally and figuratively.
So how does Murderbot take the praise from Mensa?
Oh, in typical Murderbot fashion, it just downplays everything. Says it was just doing his job, fulfilling contractual obligations. No heroism here.
Right, deflect.
And then we get this little tidbit of backstory that Dr. Mensa was initially hesitant about even having Murderbot on the team.
Oh, really? Why?
Doesn't go into detail in this bit, but it adds this layer, right? Seeing that initial apprehension versus her current concern and, well, maybe respect.
Yeah, that's a compelling dynamic. That shared crisis is definitely changing things between them.
For sure. It sets up a lot for the rest of the story.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about how actually landed with the wider world, because this isn't just some, obscure sci-fi thing.
Not at all. This thing cleaned up at the awards. We're talking Hugo, Nebula, and Locus Awards for Best Novella.
Wow, that's a trifecta in the Sci-Fi Fantasy Awards, pretty much.
It really is.
Yeah.
Plus, New York Times and USA Today bestseller lists. So, yeah, it definitely struck a chord with a lot of people.
So what are the critics saying, the editorial reviews?
Overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic, really. They use phrases like tense science fiction adventure, heart-pounding thriller.
Okay, so he delivers on the action front.
It does.
Yeah.
But also, I love this one, endearing, funny, action-packed, and murderous.
Huh. That covers a lot of ground.
Doesn't it? And it's also called a sharp, sometimes moving character study. So it's not just explosions and monsters.
Right. It's got depth, too. Those reviews really captured the different facets, don't they? The action, the humor, the character.
You really do.
Yeah.
And the central themes that keep coming up are, one, exploring consciousness through AI, and two, this really fascinating look at what constitutes humanity, or something very like it, inside a non-human being. It makes you think about definitions,
Absolutely. And do the regular readers, the customer reviews, do they pick up on the same things?
By and large, yes. They echo a lot of that. Readers consistently praise the engaging story, how well it's written. The perspective of the protagonist, Murderbot's voice, is huge for readers and the world building. It feels thought-provoking, but also entertaining.
And the humor, does that come through for readers too?
Oh, definitely. The humor is a major highlight for so many people, especially Murderbot's internal sarcasm, its witty observations about the humans and the situations it's in.
People really seem to connect with Murderbot's voice then.
Totally. They describe it as sassy, funny, relatable, which is amazing for an AI killing machine.
Yeah,
right?
relatable is maybe the most surprising word there.
But also just plain interesting. There seems to be this great balance people appreciate between the action plot stuff and the internal development of Murderbot, plus its interactions with the human crew.
It sounds like it taps into something, well, very contemporary.
I think so. This idea of this powerful being that honestly just wants to be left alone to binge watch its favorite show.
Yeah.
That resonates, doesn't it, in our, hyper-connected, always-on world. That juxtaposition lethal capabilities on one hand, relatable, introverted tendencies on the other, That seems key to its appeal.
That quote you mentioned earlier from NPR.
Oh yeah, we are all a little bit Murderbot.
Yeah.
That just perfectly encapsulates that connection readers feel.
So people generally find it a quick read, satisfying.
Many find it a quick, really enjoyable read, perfect for like an afternoon or an evening. But as often happens when people love something, others wished it was longer. They wanted more.
Which is a good sign, right? Means the character and world really grabbed them.
Exactly. That desire for more really speaks volumes about the strength of what Wells created here.
And the TV show's thing keeps coming up in reviews.
The recurring praise for Murderbot's specific voice and its obsession with serial television is really noticeable. It's just such an unexpected, distinctive trait for a security android.
Yeah, it's quirky, but it works.
And it's clearly a huge factor in why readers embrace the character so much. It's
Yeah.
that blend, the familiar wanting to chill and watch something, and the utterly alien being a high-tech SecUnit. That's what makes it so captivating.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into... It feels clear the novella introduces a really, truly compelling protagonist in Murderbot.
Absolutely.
Here you have this SecUnit that's, gone off script, hacked itself. And despite its initial goal, just solitude and endless entertainment, it finds itself making these unexpected choices, showing this kind of care almost for the humans it's supposed to be protecting.
Yeah, it's not just following orders anymore. The novella just masterfully sets up this world filled with potential danger, both overt and maybe corporate.
Right.
And this incredibly intriguing central character navigating all those complexities.
Yeah.
It's really no wonder it hit so big, critically and with readers.
That unique voice, the thrilling action, but also that thoughtful look at AI consciousness.
Yeah.
It ticks a lot of boxes.
It really does. It manages to be fun and thought-provoking at the same time.
Okay, so on that note, here's maybe something for our listeners to chew on, a final thought.
Right.
Given Murderbot's very strong preference for fictional worlds, for its entertainment feeds, over actual real-world interactions, what might that suggest about our own relationships with the media we consume?
Interesting question.
And the connections we form, with fictional characters versus maybe the real people in our lives. Could Murderbot's journey, its whole internal conflict, be seen as maybe a commentary on our own desires for escape?
Or maybe about the sometimes blurry lines between our real lives and our virtual or mediated lives.
Exactly. And maybe even what it means to be a failure by certain societal standards, like Murderbot considers itself for not being a mass murderer. Just something to think about after our deep dive today.